does the Sheriff Department operate? What are the policies that check and balance when something goes wrong? Today is part 2 of our conversation with the Prince George's County Sheriff's Department. We want you to know what to expect when deputies come to your door. We want you to know how the deputy should conduct himself or herself. And we want you to know what to do if things go awry. This is part 2 of When Deputies Come to Your Door. Grab your pen and paper. You will want to take a note.
When depression meets hope, everything can change. Help someone who's struggling by supporting the National Alliance on Mental Illness and be a part of the NAMI effect. Hope starts with you.
Hello and welcome to the Clarion Call Show. I'm Janice Liggins, your host. This is indeed part 2 of our discussion on When Deputies Come to Your Door. This is the first time we've done a 2-part episode, but this topic is both sensitive and important. We have the Sheriff and his Inspector General with us again today, but just in case you did not see part 1, here's a brief review. We're going to talk about 3 different occasions when someone felt a little bit uncomfortable when deputies did come to their door. And so we have guests on the phone, and we'll be reaching out to them through phone interview. And up first we have Miss J. And so Miss J, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Okay. So have you had sheriff deputies come to your home looking for someone to arrest?
I have.
And how many deputies came to your home?
Only one came to my door.
What do you believe others need to know should deputies come to their door?
Well, number one, I believe that because we are a society that believes in you're innocent unless you're proven guilty, I have no idea why they have to come in the middle of the night. Just like to say I'm very grateful that you're having this program because people don't know what to do. This is the very first time that anything like that had happened. So I wasn't familiar with any kind of processes. I didn't know what to do, and I think if only thing that comes out of this is to let citizens know what they can do, it's going to be a success.
You have, as sheriff, created some value statements.
Absolutely.
That you want the deputies to use as their banner going forward. Can you share those with us?
Absolutely. We have 5 stated values, and if citizens will come to our website, they can see we try to be transparent as an organization. They will see what our various values are, what our vision and mission is for the organization, and so certainly respectful service, to build citizens' trust, to always act and conduct ourselves professionally, to operate with the highest of integrity, and to honor the basic reason we exist, to provide great public service. Those are our basic values that we share with citizens, and so we want citizens to know. That's why we put them on our website and we publish them, et cetera, so that they can gauge us and gauge the response of our deputies. So when our deputies respond, and if they feel like they haven't been respected, if we haven't been trustworthy or honest in our conduct or performance, they can measure that, call me, the sheriff, or the various members of our organization, because we want to know that. It's a hard thing to hear when our people don't perform at the highest level, what I need to hear,
Yes.
so that I can work to correct that.
On a scale of 1 to 5, where 5 is excellent, how respectful were the deputies?
I would put it at a 1,
Okay.
because I was basically cursed at.
Do you want to share with us what they said?
One of the officers, the deputies, told me basically to just shut the F up.
Okay.
And I responded with my response, because that was just rude.
Did any of the deputies threaten to take you to jail for any reason?
Well, yeah, they just basically told us if we don't cooperate, that would happen. And that's what I said. They were just nasty.
How did the conduct of the deputies make you feel?
Just like bullied. I mean, it just made me feel. I was afraid, because I just wanted to make sure I acted and conducted myself in a way where I didn't get, hands put on me or anything like that. So I just basically complied, but I did respond to one of the officers because I just felt that it was unnecessary. One of the sheriffs, because it was unnecessary to speak like that.
And
It
did
was necessary.
you report the incident? Why or why not?
No, I didn't, because again, I was just concerned for the person that they came into the home looking for. So,
Okay.
and I didn't know whether how they would retaliate or act.
We welcome again the Sheriff of Prince George's County, Mr. Melvin High, and Mark Spenser, Inspector General with the Sheriff's Office. Gentlemen, welcome, and thank you again for coming back for part 2 of our discussion, and I promise this time we're going to make progress into some of the questions. But I want to start, Sheriff, with the values that you talked about during the clip that we had. Two of the values are respect and professionalism.
Absolutely.
But we heard Ms. D, on the phone interview, saying she felt bullied, and she gave a respect level of a number 1. And so, if your values are on your site, your website, what do you do when they don't uphold those values? I mean, how do you handle that? I mean, how is that handled generally, policy-wise?
Well, we do a couple of things. One, it says that we have some training issues to make sure that people clearly understand why we exist and the purpose and how we go about doing our work. And then accountability, to make sure that all of those complaints where we don't measure up, where we don't meet the citizens' expectation of our service, where our members don't meet my expectation for service, that we are accountable for our acts and our conduct. Let me also just briefly say, we have something called a General Orders Manual. That's in essence kind of like our Bible, where those values are contained and other directions for the members to do our work. That Bible, if you will, is divided into about 9 chapters, and then a special section called Special Orders that really guides and directs and illustrates the philosophy of our agency and how we go about doing our work in a professional way, a respectful way, and maintaining our integrity and all of the other values.
From an operational standpoint or from an investigative perspective?
From both.
Okay.
It describes how we go about doing certain things,
Okay.
and so we don't leave it to chance, so people have guidance and direction about how to do the work.
But when they don't follow that,
That's right.
that's
and
what we're talking about.
That's where the accountability
Right.
process comes into play.
What is the Sheriff's Department policy on how many deputies are assigned to go to a house?
Well, it depends on the situation and the circumstance. And so when
Let's say there's one person that they're looking for.
If it's just one person, again, it depends on the situation and the circumstances that we know about that person in that circumstance. For instance, if we have information that this person is highly armed, we will certainly want more than one deputy to respond to that call. If it's a person that we're looking for that's wanted for a felony, and depending on the felony, a felony for murder, for rape or robbery, all of those things are factored in to decide how many people need to go to handle that situation safely for the person we're looking for, as well as our deputies.
On segment 1, we had 3 scenarios. In each incident, the deputies were looking for one person, but in the 3 incidents, one, there was 1 deputy, one, there were 5 deputies, and then one, there was 10 deputies.
Right.
And they were all misdemeanors.
Okay. Well, see, even in the class of misdemeanors can go from benign to violent. We have misdemeanor assaults where people have assaulted someone. So it depends on, again, the circumstances and the situation that we get from the call and from doing the background work on that warrant to say, to do this safely, we need 1 deputy or we need 2 deputies or more.
And when a search warrant is used and the person that's being sought does not live in that particular home, residence,
Right.
what should happen at that point? The deputies are going to a home where the resident, that person does not own and doesn't live.
Right.
Should there be a search warrant?
Well, it depends. And let me share that, how that's looked at.
Yeah.
In terms of efficiency, when we have that warrant for something that we say in our investigation says this person is likely to be found at this address, then we want to know if that person is the owner of that premise or not. But for efficiency's sake, the deputies will go there and knock, and if they get someone come to the door and say, we're looking for whoever it is.
Right.
And if that person says he's there, in most cases, people are law-abiding and say, he's here, she's here, and I'll get that person for you. And so it goes off without incident. That's the great majority of our situation.
If they're not there.
But if they're not there, or if that person who we meet at the door says, you can't come in, well, unless that warrant says that's, and the information we have says that's that person's specific owned address, then we have to go get a search warrant.
Owned address, meaning?
Well, that person is the property owner.
Okay. So if they're not the property owner, should a search take place?
Well, unless we get permission from whoever is the property owner.
If the property owner does not give permission.
Then we go get a search warrant, yes.
Okay. And so what happens?
And so that search doesn't take place until that search warrant is acquired.
So to search when the person they're looking for is not the owner, and the homeowner does not give permission, that's a violation?
That's a violation, yes.
Okay. And so,
but I would just want to say, I'm asking for citizens, if that be the case, I don't want citizens to harbor people who are wanted. So we want them to be a good partner with us and say, that person is here.
I'm talking in situations where the person that's being sought doesn't own the home.
I understand.
And does not give permission.
Okay.
Because the person is not there.
Okay.
And so another question, though, is if there is a search warrant, if they want to conduct a search, I should say, should the search warrant be shown to the homeowner?
Absolutely.
Before they do a search?
And that's a part of our training to our members, because we want to reduce conflict. And so once a person sees that search warrant and sees it's a valid search warrant for that address, they're more likely to be compliant.
Right, okay. And when are the deputies, they're required to show the search warrant only to the homeowner, though, is that right? That's fine.
It all depends, again. Certainly if that person identifies themselves as a homeowner, we want to show it to that person. But whoever we're greeted by, we can show that, because again, that reduces conflict.
Is it common practice to search a residence on a misdemeanor?
Well, yes. You know, the unfortunate thing is that most of the warrants we get are not serious warrants, meaning misdemeanor or versus felony. And so most of the warrants that we get are for misdemeanors, but we've been directed by the courts to go out and find the person.
Failure to appear, is that a misdemeanor?
That's a misdemeanor, yes.
Okay. And what's the sheriff's policy on conduct or language? We heard Ms. D, for example, on the caller, say that the officer was using profanity with her. And I know other incidents where officers use profanity. So what's the policy on that?
Well, it's not permitted. We want people to speak in appropriate language to people and not to engage in profanity or those kinds of things. So that's a violation of our rules. And on those cases, I want to hear about it.
And so what's the consequence? I mean, when they break any rule, does it?
Well, we have a table of penalties that goes from a verbal reprimand to a written reprimand to stiffer consequences all the way to termination.
Okay. And during the deputy training, how is intimidation handled? Are they taught to, I know you said last time, Mark, they're taught to take control of the situation.
Sure.
But if there's nothing to take control of, is there?
Well, every situation has to be controlled. Whenever there's an encounter, some factor of control needs to be applied. Now, again, what is that level of control in that situation? And so the person has to look at the situation circumstance to say, what should I do to make sure that I'm in control? Because control leads to safety.
Yes. The proper control.
Proper control, right, absolutely.
Okay. So put a pin in it right there. We'll be right back.
Okay.
So what rights do you have as a citizen when things go wrong? What can you do? That's next. Stay tuned.
To me, foster parenting is like parenting. It just becomes a natural part of the home. Being part of the foster care program has changed my life totally. I've put things in perspective. When you come into foster care, it breaks those negative cycles that some of these kids are experiencing, and it gives them the opportunity to do something positive with their life.
Anytime you can affect someone else's life in a more positive manner, that's what you need to do. Today's society complains about our teenagers and young adults. I say get involved and change their lives. We can't help but affect the future.
You wouldn't believe how many children out here, they're in need of homes. At the end of the day, that's the only thing everybody wants. They want to be loved by somebody, and they want a home they can go into. And there's a lot that we can do as adults to fulfill those needs. Kids need families like yours. Make a difference by calling 877-800-FOSTER.
Welcome back. We are continuing our conversation on what to expect when deputies come to your door and how we hold the agency accountable for misconduct. With us again is Melvin High, Sheriff of Prince George's County, and Mark Spenser, Inspector General for the Sheriff's Office. Gentlemen, thank you again for speaking with us today.
To be with you.
So let's ask the question with, as it relates to use of force. In what scenario is use of force considered appropriate or needed in conducting a search or entering a home?
Well, it can be appropriate whenever there's a need to use force to control a situation where a risk, high risk or danger is presented to a deputy or some other citizen, or to ensure that the citizen that we're trying to control and manage is done so safely.
Okay, so generally if there's a high risk to the deputy or somebody else.
Somebody else,
force,
yes.
Okay. What mechanism does the Sheriff's Department have in monitoring the behavior of the deputies when they're inside of someone's home?
Well, we do a couple of things. We have an internal affairs division that audits and looks at the activity of our people. They also receive complaints from citizens where the citizen felt that the deputy didn't act appropriately. And now we're getting ready to use a different technology. We're going to start using body cameras so that those deputies, when they go on those assignments, will have a body camera that will record their actions and the conduct of themselves as well as the people we encounter.
Yes, you mentioned that to me when we met, and I'm glad that you're going to move forward with that. When do you think the body cameras may be actually in place?
Well, we are almost there. We are at the process of trying to work out the management process of that, of trying to decide who manages the information, who looks at the information and acquires it to provide it either to an attorney or the state's attorney in cases that we have, and how that process should work. So we're just about there in terms of getting that policy done. I mentioned earlier, we have this policy manual, the general orders manual, so all that has to be crafted and put in so that the deputies have clear guidance on how to use that technology.
Okay, so the manual has to be updated first.
Has to be updated first, yes.
Mark, your thoughts?
Janice, I just wanted to make it clear that anytime a resident has a complaint about the nature of our service or even a question, they should always feel free to call. And you can call our offices, and if you have a complaint, you will be referred to the Internal Affairs Division, and someone will come out, an investigator will come out and talk to you, or you can come in and see us. You can write a formal letter of complaint. You can send us an email to our website or the Sheriff's Info blog. So there are a number of ways that citizens can contact us. And we're obligated not only to talk to you, but to give you a conclusion, resolution of your complaint in writing, and we will do so.
Okay. But what we have to work with, though, is in segment 1, and we played it at the beginning of this segment, we had 2 callers, and they were on the phone because they were too afraid to even come in the studio and be seen on TV. And if you have a situation where people are too intimidated to speak up, and neither of them report it.
Sure.
You know, Ms. D especially, with her case, did not report it because of fear of retaliation. So if you have people afraid and fearing that they will be retaliated against, you know, perhaps that's why you indicated earlier in the first segment that the numbers of complaints were low. But that could be a false positive, because if residents and citizens are afraid to report or afraid of retaliation, then your numbers are low, but that doesn't mean the incident didn't happen.
Sure.
And so that's why I'm thinking the body cameras, excuse me, are going to be critical.
Absolutely.
Because if you're sending deputies into someone's home and you have no way to monitor their behavior and other than what they tell you, that's not a good scenario, because they don't always abide by those values. I'll just leave it at that. You know, and I've witnessed that they do not abide by the values. So I won't say all. You know, we can't say all. There's always good guys and there's not good guys. But how can you monitor their behavior? They should not be in people's homes without being monitored.
Well, you know, and you make a good point, and that's one of the reasons we are going to these cameras, and we'll have a staff person have the assigned responsibility to audit these tapes to see what we hear, etc. But let me take it to a bigger point. I go out to the community and walk among the citizens in our community, and I go to a lot of churches and so forth, because I don't want citizens to fear our sheriff's office. And so when I'm there, they can come up to me and anonymously say, I have a concern or an issue, and they need do more, no more than that. And I will take it from there, because I don't want them to have that fear, that concern that they've been abused in some way and they can't report it or get relief, because I want them to do that. I want our citizens to care about and feel that they're in a partnership with their sheriff's office.
I think it's critical to reach that level of comfort with the citizens, because, you know, it's not, I'm not saying that it's across the board, but for those incidents where a person does get intimidated to the point
Right.
that they feel retaliation may come, or they're afraid to report,
Right.
or you know, they're cursed out in their own home, or treated like the criminal, you know, in their own home. You know, those things need not happen.
Right.
Sure.
We cannot have
Absolutely.
that happen. And sometimes the deputies can conduct themselves in a way, even in a group, where you could tell the behavior is comfortable to them, it's commonplace to them. So the cameras are going to be critical. And I don't know how long it's going to take to modify the manual.
Right.
That sounds like a long and arduous
Well,
journey.
I don't think so. My goal is to have these cameras deployed within the next couple of months
Okay.
at the latest.
Well, that would be great. So that means by the end of this summer at least, or the
That's
beginning
right.
of the summer even.
Absolutely.
Sure.
That's
We
my
should,
goal.
I would, is that going to be across all deputies, or is that going to be, are you going to start with just a few, or how are you
Well,
going to plan to do that?
we did a pilot, and so we tested it on different deputies and doing different functions.
Mm-hmm.
And so we've kind of got a good measure of that. And but the program has some expense to it.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're first going to start at places where it's most critical, like those people who come and knock on your door, who are there to serve the warrant. So that's going to be one of the places that we start. It's going to start also in our domestic violence unit, because we answer those calls.
Yes.
And certainly for the deputy's safety, as well as the safety of all of our citizens, because as you may know, domestic violence calls are the most dangerous call for our deputies to go on.
Sure.
And so that's a place where we want to have that technology in place as well.
Well, I agree with the both of those. You know, we do know domestic violence situations can explode.
Right.
And so for the sake of the deputy, you do want to have that, as well as the person in the home.
Right.
But I think even more, or equally as important, I should say, are those innocent families where the deputy's just going to go look for someone, and because they are a little eager to find, that they go, you know,
Right.
they use intimidation tactics.
Have-
And so I think those are important too, because
I
no
understand.
law-abiding
Right.
citizen should
Right. So
be
those-
misrespected.
So those deputies will be a part of the group that will wear the cameras, because believe me, we don't want people to feel intimidated in their own homes. Okay.
Would it be the situation where the deputy who's, if there were a report written, the deputy who was identified in that report, would they be one of the first ones to get a camera?
They probably would be, you know, but again, it's back to the function where our data says these are the risk places that doing this specific type of work has a high risk for these conflicts and confrontation. So we want to have the best evidence we can have in those encounters. And so we're going to look at it that way. And for those deputies that you talk about, eventually we want to be able to have it wherever we work.
It's needed.
I also want to say it's important that the body-worn camera system that we will deploy will have a number of safeguards. One, that particular deputy can't alter or in any way modify the
Good.
actual video.
Excellent.
The video will be reviewed and stored in a secure data storage
Sure.
area. It'll be reviewed only by supervisory personnel that have been given specific access. And of course, that will be an important part of the review of any complaint
Right.
in the disciplinary process.
Gentlemen, we're out of time, but we got progress this time, so thank you so much for coming.
Thanks
I
for
truly
having us.
appreciate it. I truly appreciate it. It is your right to report misconduct, especially of those hired to protect and serve. If you are not sure what to do, contact the Clarion Call at 301-464-7305. We will document your incident and connect you to the resources and support you need. Help us work with the Sheriff's Department to ensure that the deputies remain accountable to the people that they serve. That's it for now, and we hope you enjoyed the show. Join us next time, won't you, for the Clarion Call. Until then, I'm Janice Liggins. Blessings to you. Thank you.